And we welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. I'm Mitch Spinell. He's Mitchell Balla, and we're here to give you the latest in the world of sports. Mitch, it's good to be back here with you, buddy. And we have a lot to talk about going into this weekend. A lot of stuff's happened in the week already.
We sure do. Well, I mean, where to start, Mitch? There's so much to talk about in every sport, and there's no dull moment in any professional league. And we're seeing that right now, even as summer in the off season.
No doubt. And we'll be getting into this and to many topics throughout the show. Obviously, you know, you're here on YouTube. Be sure to follow or subscribe, I guess, and hit the bell, as well as check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, and, you know, bigtimesportsohio.com and all of our individual socials. So, Mitch, you know, we're in December now, and with December comes the winter sports season, and with the winter sports season comes basketball. A lot of games have been already played throughout our respective areas so far this past week. I was actually at a game myself the other night, and I was looking at this slate throughout Tuscarawas County, but I wanted to get your take on Stark first. The way that those teams, especially in the Federal League, are going right now, who do you think are the teams to watch, especially throughout this upcoming campaign?
Well, I've been to what is now 3 different games here already early on in the basketball season. A team I have not seen yet, but I know some folks out there maybe have, or they will soon see on Big Time Sports. The McKinley Bulldogs, Mitch, they are as good as advertised. They are, you know, going into the season, they were probably the favorite to win the Federal League title, returning as many starters and players off the bench as they did from last year. And they are undefeated. They had a win last night over Lake in overtime at the field house. And Lake is always a very tough team, no matter what the gap is in talent, because they're just so well coached. So McKinley's look great. Jackson surprised me. This is a team that lost 4 of their starting 5 and also the first 2 off the bench last year. This is a team that boasts 4 sophomores, 2 that start, 2 that are, you know, 2 of the first 3 off the bench, rather, and a couple of juniors that are now getting their first taste of varsity experience. This is a young team that is now 3-1, 2-0 in Federal League play. And Glen Oak, Mitch. Glen Oak is very surprising. A lot of folks saw them on our most recent TV game here on Big Time Sports, and Glen Oak just put away Perry early last night. This is a team that had a lot of question marks coming into the season. They lost a center, like Brody Gowan, I believe was his name from last year. He's now at Capital University. And they're putting up points fast, Mitch. And this is a team that I think other teams in the Federal League and other teams in Northeast Ohio now, when they game plan, are going to try to have to figure out how are we going to slow this team down, because they can score quickly.
No doubt. And it's going to be a lot of competitive teams in Stark, a lot of competitive teams in Tuscarawas. Some of the ones that have already gotten off the gate strong, starting off with Strasburg, who actually won last night over McDonald. They are now 4-0 to start the year, and they haven't even played at home yet, which is very interesting, but they will be coming this Friday. Now, as for the rest of the IVC here, on the boys' side especially, as I try to pull up the standings, and there we go. As I mentioned, Strasburg still unbeaten. Malvern having a very good start to the year, 3-0, 1-0 now in conference play after they had a very solid night against Buckeye Trail. Mitch Miner in that game had 6 3-pointers to help lead the Hornets offense. Speaking of the Hornets, East Canton's up there as well. Now, they're 1-1 on the year. They haven't had a lot of games in, but they're one of the top teams in the North Division of the IVC because they've won their matchup against Canaan Valley. There's also on the South side, Garaway, 2-0 on the year. Tusky Valley 3-1 and Sandy Valley 2-1. Now, many teams coming back from this past season where we saw in 2020 or 21-22, excuse me, we saw those champions be Malvern and Highland. So Highland's an interesting case now because they haven't gotten off to the greatest of starts. They are still 2-1, but they lost their conference opener to Garaway, and Garaway actually beat Highland in Berlin, which is a very difficult place to play over the Perry Reese Center. Mitch, when I'm looking at the Stark area, when I'm looking at the Federal League especially, you mentioned some of those players off the bat for some of the teams in the area, but who's the one that is like the one that people in the area should be definitely looking out to see as a potential player of the year candidate?
I mean, there's players all over the Federal League on each team, and you can probably pick one player respectfully from each team. But if we're just going off of what we know from last year and coming into this year, it's Trayshawn Foster of the McKinley Bulldogs. This is a guard that can score at will. He's a little bit bigger of a guard, so he can go down low too and play with bigger and sizable guys. But just right now, Foster, who I do believe is a University of Mount Union recruit, Mitch, has really helped McKinley excel early on in the season. Now, I mentioned he's not doing it alone. This is a team that returns a lot of experience from last year, but right now he has to be the favorite, I would say, in the Federal League. And we saw another player last night, Chase. I don't want to mispronounce his name. I think it's Kassenheiser from Lake. He's a guard. And when you have strong guard play at this level, Mitch, it's going to take you far, because as much as teams want to be able to pressure others, if you have somebody that can handle the ball and handle the pressure, it's going to work wonders for you in the full court game and the half court game offensively and defensively as well. But those two right there, and then not to be outdone by Owen Wolbert of Jackson, the 6'7" center, who has been the iCryo Stone Cold player of the game the past 2 times Jackson has taken the floor. Just last night in a 73-56 win over Hoover, he had 22 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. The big man has been doing it all for Jackson, but the favorite preseason was Foster, and still to this very moment, it is Foster of McKinley.
I like that. Now, he had a very solid game against Lake, in which the Bulldogs won in overtime last night, which is a very solid win for McKinley's squad. And looking over on the girls' side too, a couple of teams in both of our areas are very much ones to look out for so far this season. Now, in my area, we have Sandy Valley jumping out to a 4-0, 2-0 start right now, and then Malvern's 3-1, 2-0 on the north side. Then Highlands right behind the Cardinals, and the Saints and the Warriors are of Central Catholic and Buckeye Trail respectively are right behind the Hornets. Who are some of the top girls teams in the Stark area?
Well, Mitch, after really weeks 1 and 2, it was the Jackson Lady Polar Bears. They were 3-0. They had beaten Louisville in their first game of the season. They then took on Anthony Wayne from Toledo. That is a team that made it to the state Final Four in Division I last year on the opposite side of Jackson. Jackson beat them, and then Jackson went to McKinley and beat the McKinley Bulldogs inside the field house, which is never easy to do, let alone blowing them out like they did 59-40. And this is a team, Mitch, that has high expectations. We talked to head coach Anthony Butch a few episodes back, and, you know, they need to temper those expectations, but they had a setback this past Saturday, and it's something to keep an eye on. They had one of their star players go down. How much time she will miss, we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's not nearly expected to be a season-ending injury, but it will hamper the Polar Bears, and it's a reason they lost to the Green Bulldogs, what was really the second favorite in the Federal League. So Green got a key Federal League win this past Saturday at Jackson. And when you talk about players to watch, obviously Jackson with Pilata, the Division I commit to Dayton, Patabandla, the Division I commit to Wisconsin. Mallory Odo of the Green Bulldogs, a player that returns from last year with a lot of experience, the younger sibling of Zach Odo, who was at Green. He was the Federal League Player of the Year last year. So basketball runs in the blood there in the Odo family. But Mallory Odo, Mitch, is the same type of player Zach Odo was for Green, an unselfish player who is not going to have to score every night to beat you, a smart player that's going to get open shots for others, but when the ball is in her hands and she needs a basket, she can go and get it. And that is a big reason why a Green team that was trailing to Jackson after 1 quarter and took a 1-point advantage into the halftime locker room ended up blowing out Jackson in the second half on the home floor of the Polar Bears. So right now you'd have to give the edge to Green with the head-to-head over Jackson. The Federal League, though, is always wild. You have no idea what to expect. You know, Glen Oak is always well coached under head coach Paul Wackerly. McKinley has Paris Stokes, who was a phenomenal guard over there and just had a rough game against Jackson. So it's Green right now, the top team in the Federal League, Mitch, and Mallory Odo might be starting to make a case early for why she should be Player of the Year.
I like it. And we'll see if she gets the award by season's end. And we'll see what happens by season's end throughout the rest of the winter sports slate. Now, when we come back, we'll be going more into some other subjects in the sports world. We'll be right back right after these brief messages.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week. Visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the fairest deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris. Think Ferris.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla. Mitch, I want to save off our usual top segment for the third part of the show because I want to get into a discussion about the announcement we heard on Monday night, which happened right after we went off the air for our last recording. And it was regarding the Heisman Trophy race, which is now down to 4 official candidates. Seeing the finalists from the other night, which of course are now all quarterbacks. They are 4 of the top names that we have heard of from this season. Maybe 3 of them, because the 4th one really came out towards the end with the big game that he had. We now have CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, Max Duggan, and Stetson Bennett as our 4 Heisman Trophy candidates. So we'll get to what you think in a second. We did kind of touch on this on Monday, and I kind of wonder if the committee would look at a certain candidate that we'll get to. For the most part, I think they got it pretty right. It's the top players this year have all been quarterbacks. Say what you want about guys like, Marvin Harrison or a top wide receiver or other guys like that, but I think for the most part, these are the right candidates. These are the top candidates, and there's a lot of good candidates, even though this is maybe not the most touted Heisman Trophy race in a while. With that, Mitch, go ahead and tell us why Stetson Bennett shouldn't have been a nominee.
I'm not just going to spit the facts out. I'd rather people go and do it themselves, because I know there's been times I say things that I don't have 100% of the facts behind. And so I'm going to leave it up for people to do their own research, as most people should do for everything nowadays. First off, I'm so sick and tired of it being a quarterback every year. We touched on it last show, Mitch. There's only been 2 wide receivers since the 90s, or 2 non-quarterbacks, to win it. They were both wide receivers, in Desmond Howard and then Devontae Smith of Alabama. CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams, Mitch, it seemed like we're on a collision course all season long to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. It's fitting that they're both there, given they both lost the last game they played, right? Which really sent this whole thing into a frenzy, because it was CJ Stroud until he laid an egg against Michigan. And then it was Caleb Williams far and away. And then he did not play his best. Yes, he was injured a little bit against Utah in the Pac-12 championship game, but he did not play his best. Insert Max Duggan of TCU. This is a guy that is on a team that nobody expected to have the season that they did, let alone be in the top 4 of the college football playoff. And he is a guy that literally left it all out there on the field in their Big 12 championship game, to a point where he's the best player on the field for your team, and they did not feel comfortable giving him the ball because he was so run down, beaten, battered, and bruised. I mean, the amount of times that people came out trying to help him off the field. To me, you always look at these guys and like, where's your Heisman moment? I mean, Mitch, whether you love him or hate him, you remember Johnny Manziel, and his Heisman moment was at Alabama when A&M beat Alabama, right? There's always that signature moment. To me, there was never a signature moment this year for any of our 4 finalists.
No.
And usually in years past, you've seen it. Even Devontae Smith for Bama, whether it was him catching a little bubble screen and taking it 78 yards against a team in the SEC, or returning kickoffs or punts, there's always that signature moment. I thought Duggan had his signature moment, and I truly believe it would have been if TCU would have been able to fend off Kansas State in overtime, but we know they didn't. They lost in overtime by 3. Stetson Bennett, Mitch, is not worthy of even being in New York. I would have rather have seen one of the playmakers on offense or defense go for the Bulldogs from Georgia, because Stetson Bennett's numbers compared to the other 3 quarterbacks that are there are not close. They don't even look like they should be in the same type of category with each other. And if you did a blind resume test, Mitch, I firmly believe you'd say that Bennett, based off his numbers, would be dead last in the Heisman voting. And you'd question why he's going to New York. And I get it. He's the number 1 team in the country, defending national champs, right? Undefeated all season, number 1, yada, yada, yada. He's throwing to the mini Rob Gronkowski and Brock Bowers. That definitely helps. And he's in an offense that fits him. They had a quarterback last year in JT Daniels that was this highly touted and recruited quarterback that they said no to. Why? Because they realized Stetson Bennett was a better fit. Wasn't necessarily the better player, Mitch. He was the better fit for what Kirby Smart and that coaching staff wanted to do at Georgia. And that's kind of where he's at and why they've been so successful, right? He's not going to kill you and turn the ball over. He's not necessarily going to beat you with his legs. He can. Just when you talk about the strict playmaking abilities these other guys have, and yes, you can come at me and say, well, Stroud has Marvin Harrison. I get it. And, Duggan does this, and Williams has this, and he's with Lincoln Riley, who just breeds Heisman Trophy winners. I'm upset that Stetson Bennett's going, but at the same time, what I said in the last episode of our podcast is, to me, this is the weakest Heisman Trophy race we've had in recent memory, because there has been nobody that stood out clear and above everybody else, and there's been nobody that has that Heisman moment like I just alluded to.
Yeah, I mean, technically it would make it one of those, I mean, not stronger races in the sense that we have a lot of great star players who have stood out as much this year. These guys have had their standout moments, but this is one of the tighter races we've had in a while, where I genuinely don't know whose name is going to be called on Saturday. Usually you have an idea of who it's going to be, like last year with Bryce Young, for example. And, I rattled off Stetson Bennett's stats last time, but it was 3,425 yards. It's 11th in the country, 20 touchdowns. It's tied for 42nd in the country, and then 6 interceptions. That's pretty solid still. 6th in the nation in QBR, by the way, 86.3. Looking at his game log here, his most fruitful day this season was likely, I mean, it's between the first game of the year, that 49-3 blowout of Oregon, where he threw for 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and this past week against LSU, where he went 23 of 29, 4 touchdowns, QBR of 96.7, and then 274 yards. But again, nothing that would make you feel like, wow, this guy stood out among the rest. And he is the catalyst for why this team is going good. The catalyst for Georgia's defense. The catalyst for them is an offense productive enough to catch up with what the defense can do. A defense that only, 1, 2, 3 times this season has allowed 20 or more points. And look, I have seen a couple of articles writing for Bennett's case to win. I have this one from Jonathan Williams of MSN. He said something along the lines of, Bennett may not have the edge regarding overall stats, but he does when it comes to the overall outlook of each player's season. Georgia under Bennett posted a flawless season through 13 weeks of play. They hold the number 1 ranking for the playoffs, and the Bulldogs were crowned conference champions this past weekend. Caleb Williams didn't do that. Max Duggan didn't do that. CJ Stroud definitely didn't do that. If Max Duggan had won that game, we might be looking at him and saying, okay, he's probably the guy.
I completely agree.
It just took a blown 4th down and goal play. No, not even, was it 4th and goal, or was it was 4th within the 5-yard line?
It was inside the 2.
Inside the 2.
4th and goal from the 2.
Yeah, and I think if they'd have just let him run one more time, he would have gotten it, and then we would have sealed off the chances. TCU would have won. They'd have gotten their 3 spot. They did anyway, but yeah, I think it was just that costly decision that cost him a Heisman, and it's just going to go right over to Caleb Williams by default, who has had the best numbers this season and has probably played better games than Stroud, because Stroud is up there in terms of numbers. The problem is he hasn't looked like he's looked better than he did at points last year, but he doesn't look like the guy who was supposed to flourish into that preseason Heisman favorite.
100%. And my knock on Stroud, Mitch, and I've been vocal about it, maybe more so off the air. CJ Stroud is always good for one blunder a game. Now, sometimes the Buckeyes can get away with his blunder against very, mediocre to average teams, especially during that non-conference part of their schedule. And they were playing the likes of Toledo and I think Arkansas State this year. You saw it against Michigan, right? A play where he's going down. He's like, I have to make a play. And instead he underhands or flips a pass and it gets intercepted. Going back to Wisconsin, a team that I went to bed at halftime midway through the season because Ohio State was blowing them out. He just thought he had to make a play when the Buckeyes were up 28, I thought, and just forced a ball that was unnecessary. He just lacks awareness at points. And that's why I never firmly believed he was going to be the Heisman winner unless Ohio State ran the table, won the Big Ten championship. He played as well as he had all season, and they held the number 2 seed in the country. They didn't. Caleb Williams is probably going to win by default, Mitch, but there's people out there that say, if you're somebody that played over 80% of the year, why aren't you getting the recognition you deserve? Right? Especially when you look at the team of the player I'm going to name and how bad they fell off once he got hurt, even though he got hurt and they were down 30, and Hendon Hooker of Tennessee. That's a guy that was electric all season long. That's a guy that was on nobody's boards coming into the season to be a potential Heisman candidate, right? And he was a Heisman candidate. He tore his ACL. We know they were already down by 3+ touchdowns at the time to South Carolina. We know they lost by 30 at home. Yes, that hurts. You have Blake Corum of Michigan. Blake Corum has been a phenomenal running back in college football this year, who goes down in week 12, obviously, but just, their 11th game of the season, tries to come back against Ohio State. I think he had 2 plays checked out, never came back in. Now you see he's having season-ending surgery, so he is done for Michigan. Those are 2 names, though, right there that, to me, Mitch, I think still deserve recognition. I don't buy that if you're a Heisman winner, you should deservedly go right back, because I think Bryce Young had a very, very poor season compared to what he did last year as the Heisman winner. There's people that argue that. I don't buy that at all. We've seen it before, like Johnny Manziel got to go back the next year, I think, and even though he didn't win it. I don't know why I'm getting upset, because like I said, it doesn't really affect me who wins. The really cool thing, though, Mitch, and what's pretty relevant to us having this conversation, is our own teammate here at Big Time Sports, Joe Dunn, is actually a Heisman voter. He gets to vote on the Heisman Trophy winner. He has a vote, working so long in college football for the University of Akron. We put that out on social media, I believe yesterday, which would be Tuesday when this episode airs on Thursday. So that's really cool. That's somewhat relevant here. I'll just go out on a limb right now and tell you that I think Caleb Williams will win it by default. I don't think they're going to hold the Pac-12 championship game against him. I won't be shocked if it is CJ Stroud or even Max Duggan. I will be absolutely stunned if it's Stetson Bennett.
I can see that. Stroud, if he would win, by the way, would be the 7th Buckeye to win the Heisman, first since Troy Smith in 2006. And you mentioned it being a very heavy quarterback award, but we forget there was a time when running backs dominated this honor too. I believe it was from 1972 to 1985. 13 out of 14 of the Heisman Trophy candidates or winners were running backs, halfbacks, or pretty much just halfbacks at this point, because of the way the position works now. You went from guys like Archie Griffin, obviously the 2-time winner, Tony Dorsett. Yes, that's right. Tony Dorsett to Earl Campbell to Billy Sims to George Rogers to Marcus Allen, Charles White, Herschel Walker, Mike Rozier, and Bo Jackson. Those are names. Those are names at a time when, college football was more dominant on the running back. Now, so the quarterback, Doug Flutie being the only exception to that rule back in the day, winning in 1984. So yeah, that's all we have for the college football Heisman Trophy section. Who do you guys think will be the Heisman winner? Be sure to comment that below. We'll be right back right after these brief messages.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit BuckeyeCareerCenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group. It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
Back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show, Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla. Mitch, we are not at all going to talk about what we were talking about during the break because that is not fit for a family-centric, good Christian show like this one.
You know what I'll say, though?
What?
People, if you're wondering, do your research.
That could be taken a lot of different ways. Just let for those of you who are involved in the Twitter sphere, just let it play out. Let it play out and just process it from there. In the meantime, we're going to go now to our picks for NFL. God, is it week 13? It's week 14 already. Wow. Okay.
14.
All right. So we got to get into this here right now. I'm going to get the picks up here. I'm going to try and figure out how well I did this past season. Speaking of which, now the Monday night game the Monday night game, I only caught a bit of this past week. I was more focused in on the Sunday night game, which was hilarious, and we'll get to that in a second. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the thing here, and I did. Okay. So this past week, once I get the thing set up here, I went whatever record these are. I did much better than I thought I was going to.
Did phenomenal.
Only had 2 losses this week, so I'm very proud of myself. I would say the records, but they're not up there. The only ones I didn't get were the Bengals against the Dolphins against the 49ers. I don't know why I picked Miami, and the Raiders up against the Chargers. So that was a tough one. Yeah, and then, of course, the Monday night game, Tampa Bay coming back, just, you knew it was going to happen. Once you see the ball in his hands, you know it's going to happen, although that might be the highlight of his week. So now we go over to week 14 of the season. And, Mitch, We start off with the Thursday night game between, I'm trying to get the things right here, between the Raiders and the Rams. So it's funny, the Raiders just played the Chargers against LA. Now they play the Rams. Rams again, man, just cannot get it done. They can't. What is it now? 5 in a row they've lost to in this one. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. So now the Rams take on the Raiders for the Thursday night game. And the Raiders aren't great either, but they have won. They're 5-7. They've won 4 of the last something now. And they're 6-point favorites going into this game. Is it too easy to take the Raiders, especially with the news that we saw occur earlier this week?
No. This is Mitch B's big time sports lock of the week. The Las Vegas Raiders are winning this. I don't care if it's John Wolford. I don't care if it's Odell Beckham Jr. off the streets playing quarterback. And it's most certainly is not going to be Baker Mayfield learning the playbook in a day and a half, beating the Raiders.
Well, that was the news of Baker Mayfield getting cut by the Panthers after all of 7 games. And now he's with the LA Rams. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. And just, again, what a fall. Just it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, you're just like, well, moving on with my day, I guess. But in the end, you kind of wish him the best for the good stuff that he did, while try not to remember the less good stuff. Then we have the Jets taking on the Bills, a game in which the Jets stole from Buffalo early in the year, but this is going to be in Buffalo now. Buffalo's on a roll. They're 9.5-point favorites. New York kind of seems like it's reeling. Mike White did show out against the Vikings this past week, but couldn't quite get it done. I feel like this might be my lock of the week. I'm going to go Bills, and I don't think it's going to be very particularly close. Point favorite. Yeah, I can go points.
Yeah, I would take the Bills here, Mitch, but this game isn't the big story about the Bills. The bigger story is the news we got this morning of Von Miller being out for the season.
Yes.
Von Miller underwent ACL surgery yesterday to repair what was a torn ACL, although at first glimpse when he got hurt 2 weeks ago, they did not think it was a torn ACL. So makes you wonder what happened now between now and then. So Von Miller, who Mitch really was having a strong case to be at least up there in discussion for Defensive Player of the Year, is now out for the season. He was a huge signing for the Bills in the offseason. He had really helped that defense turn around. It's a huge blow for Buffalo. Obviously, the bigger blow for Buffalo would be if their quarterback, Josh Allen, wasn't playing. He's playing. So I still like the Bills here. 9.5-point spread. Shockingly, not even the biggest spread of the weekend, but I do like the Bills here by a lot.
Yeah, you said that, and we'll get to that in a second. By the way, I still think it's Micah Parsons and Joey Bosa in the T-Man race for the award. But Von Miller had a good season too.
Yeah, I think he would have probably been, the third. They usually take 3 finalists. So
yeah. Okay, so let's get to that big spread of the week, boy. 16 points between the Cowboys and the Texans. We all the boys. We're going with the boys. Great. Let's move on. The Vikings take on the Lions, and we might have a split here, because you and another guy here have the Lions. And granted, the Lions are rolling right now. They're 5-7 after a dismal start to the season. But you're taking on one of a top team in the Vikings in the NFC. And this is an early afternoon games. This is where, the sun is out, so Superman can get the most sun for his powers and Kirk Cousins.
Mitch, I'm a huge fan of Dan Campbell. I'm a huge fan of how this team has rallied behind him. He has definitely turned them around. And Detroit, for once, was patient enough. I do think this is the right man for the Lions. And this is a team that now is getting their first round pick back this weekend, it looks like, in Jameson Williams, the wide receiver from Alabama, who was also at the Ohio State University. That's a huge pickup. I don't know how great he's going to be. Obviously, this is the first game action he's going to see, although he may have returned kicks last week. But the Vikings are this team that sit at 10-2. The Vikings have the smallest point differential of all time for a team that sits at 10-2 going into week 14. So small that, Mitch, I saw this morning and I had to make sure I brought it up.
Yep.
It's the biggest what if game that everybody likes to play when they're talking about sports.
Okay.
But if every one possession game in the NFL had the opposite result this year, what the team's records would be.
Okay.
The Minnesota Vikings would have the worst record in the NFL.
Wow. Okay.
Minnesota Vikings would be 1-11.
Wow.
If every one possession game in the NFL this year was flipped the other way, they're going in to Detroit, playing a hungry Lions team that I think is trying to prove something. I am riding with Detroit.
Fair enough. I'm sticking with my guns, and I'm going to go with the Vikings. But the Lions are a 2-point favorite going in at home, so maybe this is something I don't know. There's plenty of things I don't know. We also have Jaguars taking on the Titans. Titans didn't really. I mean, they haven't been amazing. They just lost the Eagles 35-10, fired their general manager, and now they got to play the Jaguars. This seems like a game that they can come back and regroup and recover from. Although I think the Jaguars will give them a game, I think the Titans will eventually win out.
Mitch, it is December. I understand it was last week on Sunday, but they're not playing a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. And if I'm not mistaken, this is generally where Derrick Henry takes off. And so I'm going to stick with the Titans here. I expect a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, and I think the Titans cover this one easily.
I shall see. I'm going to Nashville here this coming weekend. So now we go over to the Eagles and the Giants. The Eagles are 7-point favorites. Giants still have that winning record, still 7-4-1, and they tied this week. They are now 7-4-1 against the Commanders, a game that was just between midfield, and it was like it felt like no team wanted to win, so they didn't. I can't go against the Eagles here. It's such a I'd be hard pressed to do so.
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants do cover the 7-point spread as a 7-point underdog, but I do think the Eagles are going to win this, Mitch. And this is probably something for next week once we see the results, but it's time for you and I to give an updated who we think the top teams in the NFL are, because there was a time where the Eagles were the lone undefeated team. Then they lost a game and they looked shaky the next game. People are talking. Are the Eagles the best team in football? I think they win this one, though.
Well, I'll do it for you right now. I mean, I'll give you my 4 top teams. It's between Buffalo, Kansas City. You got those 2, and then Philadelphia, and then 4. It honestly could have been San Francisco, but I think now I'm going to go Cincinnati. I think those are my 4 hot teams going into this portion of the season.
Chiefs are 1 in my book. It sucks that I have to say that, but they really are. Eagles are 2, Bills are 3. And because I want to be different from you, and I don't want to say it is the Bengals, even I was with you. The Niners would 100% be number 4 if Garoppolo did not break his foot. Something to keep our eye on. He's not out for the season. They said now he avoided the Liz Frank injury.
Yes.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I don't want to say it, but I got to be different from you. The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Go ahead and say it. That's fine. Man, their offense is steamrolling. They just scored 30 some odd points in a quarter. And why not? Do it. Feels good.
Mike McCarthy's their head coach.
Embrace it, man. Got those.
I don't want the Cowboys to win anything. I'm just saying that.
No, I know you don't. Yeah, I know. Most people don't, but I'm more chill on their side. We also have the Ravens and the Steelers. This is interesting because Lamar Jackson's not going to be playing this week. It's going to be Tyler Huntley in the backfield against a Steelers squad that has less talent than the Ravens overall, but they are a 2-point favorite going in. I believe that one is at home, and it is.
Yeah, and I actually made these picks Monday before we recorded. I generally make them early in the week. And so on here, I have Ravens, but I'm going to change to the Steelers. I think this is a divisional game. This is at home in Pittsburgh. I like the Steelers to beat the Ravens this weekend.
I think I have to take that one too. So 3 of the 4 of us are taking Steelers. So then we go over to Miami, first of all, let's go over to Carolina, who is now sans Baker Mayfield. They take on a Seahawks squad that is coming off a win over LA. Seahawks are 3.5. This game will be closer than I think. I think I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going Panthers. So I'll be the only one.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Mitch, I can't get behind there. I'm taking the Seahawks.
That's fair. It's my upset of the week. And if I'm wrong, then so be it. I'm being different. So San Francisco and Tampa Bay, Tom Brady versus we were that close. We're that close to seeing these two play against each other. But, oh well. Brock Purdy's going to come back down to earth. I'm taking Tampa Bay. If you thought, okay, again, take it in if you're on Twitter. If you thought a certain somebody was playing angry so far this season, he's going to be really angry come Sunday. Oh, it's going to be great. All right. Yeah, so then, again, do your research. Dolphins and the Chargers in prime time. This is closer than I would have expected to, because the Chargers have been reeling. Dolphins, I'm going Dolphins. I think we're all going Dolphins.
Yeah, Fins.
All right, so then we got the Chiefs and the Broncos. That's just, I don't know what's going on with him, if he needs some help. Yeah. Cardinals and the Patriots on Monday night.
I'm not going to watch this game. Let me just be honest with you. I'm not going to watch this game at all. I'm probably going to go to bed early, catch up on some sleep. Maybe play a little Call of Duty, maybe do something productive around the house. I won't watch this game. These two teams are bad.
I mean, Arizona's bad.
Give me
New England's
their quarterback play though isn't that great either.
No.
I'm gonna take the Cardinals.
Okay, I'm gonna go Patriots because I feel like that's the more sensible choice, even though it's over in Glendale. And then finally, all right, man, we're coming off a victory. This is Deshaun Watson's second start, and it's a big one against the Bengals. Oh boy, the Browns are 6-point underdogs on the road, a game in which they won last year. This is going to be a tough one, and I said that the Browns could have a letdown against two in-division rivals following the Texans game. So okay, shoot, I'm trying to think of it now. I'm looking over the injury reports for this week. Questionable David Bell, questionable Anthony Schwartz, questionable David Njoku. That's a lot of the offense that's missing. Joe Mixon questionable. Jamar Chase is back. Joe Burrow's still the quarterback. I hate that I'm doing this, man, but I got to go Cincinnati. And the reason I'm going to go with Cincinnati is that I think that they're just too in tune right now compared to where the Browns are. The Browns are still trying to find their footing as a not a new offense, but with a big part of the offense that is new. And he has to find his footing still. Joe Burrow's been playing professional football, except for his injury, consecutively for the last 2 years. Deshaun Watson hasn't.
Yeah, you're spot on. And Mitch, let's go back. I think it was probably week 2 or 4.
Okay.
It was either I believe it was week 4 after the Falcons lost.
Yes.
And I told you I was not picking the Browns to win another game, except for when they played the Bengals on Monday night, because we own the Bengals. And I actually back then had went through all the way through this week and put the Browns in there. Something has to give. Kevin Stefanski is 5-0 versus the Bengals. Joe Burrow's never beaten the Browns. The Bengals, though, are on a repeat of what they've done last year after the bye. This late in the season, they look phenomenal. They look unstoppable. They own Patrick Mahomes, and the Browns own Joe Burrow. But the difference here is, can we trust a guy that looked as bad as he did against the worst team in football last week? And can I trust Kevin Stefanski is going to feed the ball to Nick Chubb? Because if he does, I think I would take the Browns. And he has been very adamant that no matter what happens in this game, Jacoby Brissett's not going to come in to play quarterback for multiple plays. Besides, like we saw last week, probably quarterback sneak or a fake sneak or whatever it is. I want to take the Browns, but I'm taking the Bengals.
All right.
I don't think Watson's going to be able to help us win a game.
I mean, you're not alone. It's just, we got what, 1, 2, 3, we got 3 out of 4 going Bengals, with Brandon being the true trooper out there. I don't know. Just, we'll figure it out.
I hope I'm wrong. Listen, if the Browns win this game, Mitch, we are having a completely different conversation on Monday, because you're talking about potentially playing a Lamar-less Baltimore Ravens next week at home. And then you welcome in the Saints. And we know as Browns fans, we cannot look ahead, but at the same time, we would almost have to look ahead, because this is a team that you would almost expect to rattle off some wins if they can beat Cincinnati. This is it. Obviously, mathematically, we know this is it. It's win or go home the rest of the way, the rest of the year. If the Browns win this game, though, yet another divisional game, they drop the Bengals to then what I believe would be 1-4 in the division. We're having a completely different tone, a completely different conversation on Monday about if the Browns can actually make a run here down the last 4 games of the season. But I'm going to need Deshaun Watson to prove it to me. I really am.
Fair enough. And that is our picks for the NFL's Week 14. We'll be back right after this.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, Our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
Back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show, final segment here. Mitch, we got baseball and basketball. Start off in baseball, because last night I thought was the shocker of all shockers, and it turned out to be not. There was a certain report that went out, and I won't say from who. He knows, they know who they are. That said that Aaron Judge was on his way to join the San Francisco Giants as a free agent. We heard about that for about 10 or so minutes. And then reports came back out, and even the reporter even came out and said, hey, jump the gun, my bad. And then nothing came of it until this morning when Aaron Judge is now officially re-signed with at least either officially or multiple reports have confirmed he's going back to the Yankees. 9 years, $360 million, which is a hefty price, but still feels like to some people like it's not enough because he hit 62 home runs this year, was the league MVP. And this is a guy, Mitch, that could have went to his hometown team in the Giants, could have taken more money from San Diego, reportedly. And this is much more than the Yankees wanted to initially offer. I remember back in spring training, they had 7 years, $213 million on the table. And now he's making $150 million more with 2 more years, or 3 more years, excuse me. No, 2 years. This is one that, I don't know. I was kind of taken aback by it that he would sign with the Giants. I made sense. It wasn't a shocker in the sense of like, why would he do that? But I think this was probably the right move for him going forward.
It absolutely is the right move. And to your point, every source has confirmed this. The only thing it's pending is a physical, which unless something happened in the offseason, Aaron Judge is going to pass the physical and get $360 million. I think I told you when we talked about this last week, I thought it was going to be the Giants or the Yankees. Obviously, I think when we talked about the Giants were 13th on the list of best odds or 15th or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Because players want, like we've seen it in all sports now, Mitch. Players like to go home. No matter if it's early in their career, at the end of their career, they like to go home. And this had been linked for a while. There was even the article that came out, was it in a Time magazine from whether it's his girlfriend or wife, that said at one point he wanted to play for the San Francisco Giants. If he does that, it's going to be probably his last year in baseball, because people still forget that Aaron Judge was a rookie in 2016. And when you tell people that, people think, oh my gosh, this guy is just entering his prime. No, I don't want to wish it because I do think Aaron Judge is good for baseball. I do like Aaron Judge, except for when we play him. And specifically in 2017, when he robbed a home run because he's so damn tall at the wall. This could end up being a bad contract for the Yankees, Mitch. In about 5-6 years, this could very well be a bad contract because at that time, Aaron Judge is going to be 31 on April 26th. So before we are even close to a month into the season, Aaron Judge will be 31, and this contract will take him until really at 39, 40 years old. You don't see players of that caliber in baseball, especially, play that well that long. There are obviously a few exceptions. And right now, I think the way you're going to be able to judge this to a degree, different position, different player, is how Justin Verlander does with the Mets, a 39-year-old pitcher that they just signed for $43 million a year. But this was going to be the best deal Aaron Judge could get if he wanted to stay relevant. And I say that for this reason. We know how big of a market New York is. We know he just broke Roger Maris's home run record. How cool would it be if he was able to perform and break his own record again, let alone break his own record and maybe potentially break the home run record? I don't think that's ever going to be broken, if we're being honest. But if he would have gone to San Francisco, Mitch, two things would have happened. Either the San Francisco Giants would have overtaken the Dodgers in terms of publicity in national media for baseball, or Aaron Judge would have became irrelevant. This is a team that won 3 World Series in 6 years, and they're forgotten about. This is a team that arguably had the best player of all time in baseball, whether you want to agree or not, in Barry Bonds, and that's all they're known for. If he would have gone home, one of those two things would have happened. And I think he realized he had it made here in New York. He's comfortable here. He's obviously shown that since he came into the league, and he's going to get $360 million. I mean, plus the whole point I made the entire time, this is the best ballpark he can play in for 81 games at minimum a year when it comes to how he hits the ball and being able to go to right field. If he goes to San Francisco, Mitch, Aaron Judge isn't sniffing 50 home runs probably, because he's not going to be able to flick his wrist and put a ball out down the right field line in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. The only point I don't agree with you there is that San Francisco's 3 titles were forgotten, but I do understand the sentiment of the Dodgers being the big market bully out on the West Coast. And, I don't know how much longer they have as far as the top competitor in the National League per regular season. You just signed Clayton Kershaw to a 1-year deal that might be his last. You let Cody Bellinger go back to the Cubs to try and restructure his potential, and it was very close for the Giants. They could have gotten themselves back into the playoffs. They could have gotten some things brewing, but in the meantime, the Yankees do what they do, which is spend. And it looks like they'll still be one of the teams to look out for in 2023 atop the American League. And we'll see how they do come playoff time this year once it all works itself out.
They're going to have to still make additions, though. Yes, they re-signed Anthony Rizzo, but we know the Achilles heel for the Yankees was their pitching. And we saw that in the playoffs. And really, it helped them that there was the 2 rain delays in the ALDS against the Guardians, because it allowed them to push their starters back another day. They have to address it. And Mitch, the free agent market is running thin already on starting pitchers. I know we need to talk about a certain team and a signing they made that's big time, because this is only the second time I can remember in our lifetime that the Guardians have made a big splash. But quickly, before we even touch on that, Talion, a player that had ties to Judge. There was rumors out there he wants to play with Aaron Judge still, goes to the Cubs for 4 years, $68 million. Kenley Jansen, a closer. The Yankees had issues in the playoffs with their bullpen. Goes to the Red Sox, 2 years, $32 million. Quintana goes to the Mets on a deal. I mean, the pitchers are flying off the market fast. The Yankees missed out on the 2 big names of DeGrom and Verlander. And there was the article that how reputable it is, we don't know, but Kate Upton apparently said that they would have gone to New York, but Yankee fans like to boo their own players, and Justin Verlander didn't want to deal with that.
I'm sorry. You don't think Mets fans are?
From just on the outside, it is much more known that Yankee fans boo their players, I think. I mean, I'm not saying Mets fans don't.
I'll say the difference. Yankee fans boo their players out of standards. They hold themselves to a higher standard, the team to a higher standard, success 100%. Higher standard. Mets fans just boo because they've been tired of it for so long, and they just can't stand it anymore. And look, the Mets have won 3 more titles than the Indians Guardians have for the last 70 odd years, but no. 2 more titles than you and I or the Indians have. But yeah, that's just no.
But to your point, I mean, Mitch, Aaron Judge broke Roger Maris's record. There was times last year where Aaron Judge didn't do anything for a week, and he was getting booed in New York by his own fans. And that was kind of the point I think they were saying. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. I can see it being true because there are players like a Joey Gallo, Mitch. We talked about this when the podcast first started this season, when he was let go and went to the Dodgers, and all of a sudden he bursts onto the scene with them. Players can't play in New York. Some can, some can't. But Mitch, the bigger thing we need to talk about. The Guardians signed somebody.
Yes,
they didn't just sign somebody. The Guardians signed a former All-Star. The Guardians signed a power hitting bat that can sit in the 4-hole behind Jose Ramirez. The Guardians signed somebody that fills a need in the lineup in Josh Bell. $33 million, a 2-year contract with a player option after the first year, which honestly, Mitch, I love, because now this is a prove-it year for Josh Bell, which means he is either going to come out and ball out and opt out and demand more money, which, hey, if that's the case, that's fine, because it more than likely means he had over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs for a team that realistically, Mitch, knows that their time is now after a surprise season this past summer. I love this signing. This is exactly what they needed. I told you I wanted Jose Abreu. If it wasn't him, I wanted Josh Bell. We got Bell. Now you have to go get Sean Murphy, which is going to be tougher because Wilson Contreras, before we started this episode, Mitch, just signed with the Cardinals on a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. That is one free agent catcher off the market. I do not believe the Guards had an interest in him, but it does mean that the price is going to be able to be drove higher now by the A's for a catcher like Murphy.
It fills a gap that the Guardians had throughout the season. And, you know, I like the signing. I do agree with you. Murphy would be a great addition to help fill out the needs that Cleveland needs in its lineup. And hopefully they get this deal done. I mean, Antonetti already has a big victory from the Bell signing, and hopefully he can get another one for this offseason. Now, as far as the rest of our show goes, let's talk about this Cavaliers game that happened last night in Cleveland between the Cavs and the Lakers. The Cavs won the game, and I don't have the score here, and I apologize. It was 116 to 102, in which the Cavaliers outscored LA 31-19 in the final quarter. Mitch, Donovan, I can't say this without sounding like an exasperated fan. Donovan Mitchell is so freaking good.
Oh, he's
he's insane. 41 points, or 43 points, excuse me, in a night that the rest of the team still had a very solid game, even with him by far leading the way. I mean, you had Darius Garland with 21 points. Jarrett Allen returning was 7 of 7 at the start of the game from the field, ended up 11 of 14, 24 points, 11 boards. Evan Mobley didn't have a great offensive night, but he had 12 rebounds and had a huge block late in the game. It's just fun to watch these guys play, man. And especially now as you get to see, like, who would have ever thought we'd be in a better position as a franchise than whatever franchise LeBron James is ever going to be on? That's 2 times in a row the Cavs have beaten them now. And it feels strange, but it feels good to have slowly built this contender together, even in a process that wasn't that slow. We went from 22 wins 2 seasons ago to 44, and then now we might be looking at a 50-plus win team.
And it's refreshing because last year was a surprise, right? I think you and I can both agree the Cavaliers and the Guardians last year were surprising teams because we did not have high expectations for either. It's also refreshing now, Mitch, because the regular season does matter. Because we knew when LeBron James was on the Cavs, the regular season didn't matter. It never mattered. We saw it in 2018. The Cavs got the 4 seed in the East. And you know what? We knew we were going to the finals. We knew it. And the pressure that comes when you have LeBron James on your team, it wears you down as a player, as part of the team, I believe, whether it's ownership and coaching, and as a fan. It really does. And this team is just fun. They're fun. They're young. I mean, Donovan Mitchell said in the postgame last night on TNT, he's playing with a bunch of young guys. He's only 26, and he's talking about a bunch of guys younger than him. 43 points from him. He has been better than I ever thought he would have been this quickly on the Cavs when we got him. I knew he was an all-star. I knew he was going to be good, but he has really taken off. He said the past week, this is no disrespect at Utah. He's just having fun playing basketball again, and you can see it. Mitch, I'm going to double down on a take. He's not the best player, but Jared Allen is sure as hell the most important player on this Cleveland Cavaliers team. He is. And I'm not going to sit here. If we lost Donovan Mitchell, it's killer. Yes, 100%. We went from a top 4 seed in the East last year to a play-in team because Jared Allen got hurt, and he tried to come back in that game against the Hawks. He wasn't 100%. And we've already seen the effect this year when Jared Allen doesn't play. And he plays last night. He has 24 points and 11 rebounds. He's tremendous. He means so much to the Cavs. He takes pressure off Mobley. He does everything defensively, offensively, able to get offensive rebounds. He is the most important player for the Cavaliers to be successful the rest of the season and for the next 3 years as he's under contract. And the win over LeBron James, now sweeping him in the season for the first time ever. He's still 17-3 against us, which is, I guess, to be expected because we saw how bad we were without him. It's awesome to beat the King. It's awesome to beat the GOAT. But this Cavs team, Mitch, I firmly and truly believe when they're healthy, and we're not healthy, Dean Wade, whether you love him or hate him or want to believe it or not, I think he's a very, very valuable part of this team.
I agree.
The Cavs are the third best team in the East.
I agree with that. And, who knows where this team's going to go with its record, because if they do get the most amount of wins this season in the overall in the NBA, Mitch, have you seen this story that came out yesterday? There's another trophy now in the NBA that is going to be for teams to win. The league announced Tuesday that the team with the best regular season record will now receive the Maurice Podoloff Trophy, named for the first commissioner of the NBA. Like, I know that I think the NHL does that with a trophy. I can't remember what exactly the name is, but doesn't that seem just like a waste of metal and like a waste of time? Regular season champions?
Yes, I do agree. I think they're just trying to make teams buy into it a little more. I don't know if a team gets that, if they're really going to display it. Like, you think if the Cavs got the number 1 seed in the East and had the most wins in the NBA, that trophy is going to go right next to Larry O'Brien inside Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
No.
No, it's not. I think the NBA is just trying to find ways to make it more enjoyable for the common fan, for teams, to incentivize teams. We see it that pending approval, we could see a play-in tournament now in the NBA as soon as, I don't know if it's next year, maybe the 24-25 season. It looks like that's coming. I think the NBA is just trying to make things more interesting, get teams to play a little bit harder, to avoid tanking, which we know they've already tried to kind of diminish the teams that tank with the lottery system having better odds now for teams. You saw it with the Cavs, right? We've seen it before. Just because you have the worst record doesn't mean you're going to have the number 1 pick overall. Now baseball's doing it. We saw it last night with the Pirates winning the lottery to have the number 1 pick. I'm not going to get hell bent over if the Cavs have the most wins in a season or not, because I don't care about that trophy. I don't know. You probably have some people that care about it and others that don't. Ask Toronto if they would have wanted it back in 2018.
I want to see these teams like Boston, for example, like take this trophy, get awarded it, and just start going like this. You have the rest of the team cheering in the background like you would, like it's the Larry O'Brien. You got champagne just flying all over. I mean, I looked up the NHL one. It's the President's Trophy, which is awarded the club with the best regular season record based on points. And Florida Panthers have it. Wow, I did not expect Florida to be that good. But that's why I need to pay attention more to hockey. And you need to pay attention more to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. I said it. You need to do it. And thank you so much for listening. Of course, you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud, as well as YouTube, at BTS Ohio or Big Time Sports Ohio on Facebook and Instagram, BigTimeSportsOhio.com. At Mitch Spinell, at Mitchell Balla. Mitch has got the fact of the day for you.
It's impossible to hum while holding your nose shut.
It kind of is. It kind of is. It's not fully like the whole way. Like I can still get sound out, but like I can't
choke up. Sounds like you're gasping for air rather than humming.
It does. But yeah, whatever. But that was a good one, Mitch. And thank you so much for joining me. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.